views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDBTV.
Shirt so sexy it hurts, and I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan.
Welcome everybody to Doing It with Styles. Thanks for coming back this week. I appreciate your support and watching the shows, and today you're going to be extremely happy that you did. If you use any type of computer, cell phone, any type of electronic device to access anything anywhere, you're going to be glad that you saw this show. My guest today is Mack Jackson Jr. Mack, how do you do?
Great.
And you are the CEO of Mack Jackson Jr. and Associates.
Yes.
And you are a cybersecurity consultant.
Yes.
What exactly is a cybersecurity consultant, and what exactly do you do?
What I do is talk to companies, small to mid-sized businesses, even individuals, about how to mitigate the damages of identity theft or cyber crimes.
Okay. With the political climate the way it is today, I would think that more and more people would be aware of that. But do you find that's the case, or?
Well, I find that people are taking it seriously right now. There's been threats worldwide. Large corporations are being hit by hackers, and they're the high-level people. They're the ones that can afford the million-dollar IT team. But people need to understand there are low-hanging fruits, and that's a small business owner that can't afford to have a major IT department to manage their hardware and software. And then hackers will go after them quite easily.
So as a small business owner myself, with not a lot of money, by the way, what should I be worried about? I mean, what are they going to take from me? I mean, I think that's the first question. A
Sure.
Small business, what kind of a threat would they be to my business?
Sure.
Or what kind of threats am I facing, I guess?
Not a problem. The gold within any company, or the currency within any company, is the information, the data.
Okay.
And that's the personal data that each business have regarding their vendors, their employees, and their customers. That personal data. Data consists of more than just a credit card information, but it consists of anything that can identify that individual. The hacker, they're looking to build, let's say, for example, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
And they get parts and pieces of the puzzle built within the darknet of an individual. And those pieces consist of the social security number, the credit card number, the address, anything that can personally identify that individual. After that jigsaw puzzle, if you would, is created by the hacker, they can in turn sell it to other bad guys in the darknet for financial gain.
Okay, so you just mentioned the dark web or the dark net. Is that something that really exists, or is that just something that they put on TV to make us go, oh, wow, that's cool?
Yeah, it sounds sensationalized by the media,
right,
of course, but yes, it does exist, and it is a way that bad guys can create commerce in the underground without being watched by law enforcement or other governmental entities.
So and I guess this is what my real question is when we hear that terminology, we think, okay, here's the regular web, and then there's another completely different one over here that's the dark web. It's actually the same thing. It's just what information you can access at different levels?
Correct. It's different browsers.
Okay.
The regular browser that you have that we all use, anything from Microsoft's browsers to Google to Firefox, those are
right,
all legitimate browsers.
Right.
There's different browsers that are used, and even with that, to get to the so-called dark net, you still have to have a password or access to get into it.
You have to know where you're going.
Right.
You can't stumble across it.
Yeah, it's like the old days when it used to be speakeasies,
yes,
when you have underground gaming,
right,
and bootlegging.
Right.
Same way, you knock on the door, you know the password, you get in. If you don't, they're not going to let you in, right?
Yeah,
Same
Guido
way.
sent me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so and is that as prevalent as we're led to believe?
It is, and it's getting more prevalent because now they're being financed by individuals, corporations, and nation states are actually helping financing these hackers. They could be domestic within our U.S. or foreign.
So, yeah, speaking of foreign, how do we protect ourselves from that? I mean, we've got all of my computers have antivirus software and firewalls and all that stuff. Is that going to keep them out?
That's nothing's at 100% because as we try to protect ourselves.
Every time you figure something out, somebody's going to figure out how to get around it.
Yes, one of my mentors explained to me that hackers work like water flowing down a mountain.
Right.
Water looks for the least part of resistance. And that's what hackers are looking for that crack in the wall where they can seep through.
Right.
And they're trying to find that. Our duty and our jobs are try to make sure those holes are covered and patched to make sure that we can't, no one's going to break the dam.
How do you do that? I mean, if myself as a business owner and I say, Mack, I'm worried about this, come help me. What should I expect as a business owner?
The best thing is awareness.
Okay.
The awareness. I say this all the time on my show and in my speeches that I give to businesses,
Right.
and that is that our best defense against a cyber attack is through education, being aware of your laptops, your desktops, having antivirus software as you mentioned.
Right.
But also, can I ask you this question?
Sure.
Do you have antivirus software on your smartphone?
As a matter of fact, I do.
Very good. So you're really good at this.
And believe it or not, you were a guest on a show maybe last year or the year before, and you had mentioned that.
Yes.
And the next day, I immediately went, "Oh, I didn't think about that," because
good.
there are times when I've got information on my phone that via a USB port I will plug into my computer, whether it's
Exactly.
here or at home,
Exactly.
and to download there. So I guess that's what got me thinking. So, but up to that point, I don't know how many years I've had a cell phone, but up until that point, I never thought of that.
Our cell phones now are nothing more than, as the movie Austin Powers says,
Right.
the mini-me
Right.
of their
computers, yeah.
computers. And hackers are looking for the low-hanging fruit, and they're going after your smart devices because it's easy to access.
I mean, there is so much information. There's a show that I'm in the middle of watching now, and I think it's called on Netflix. I think it's called The Big Hack.
The Big Hack, yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
That scared the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah.
And realizing, we're worried about Big Brother watching us. Dude, we give out our information free. I mean, you go to Facebook and you see, they're talking about, me and my boyfriend broke up, and I'm going on vacation here, and blah blah blah. You're telling everybody,
Right.
That's, hey, I'm not going to be home, coming to rob my house.
Exactly. I always tell my clients and friends, it's not Big Brother that's watching, it's the brother from the other mother.
Yeah.
And the other mother is corporations.
Yeah.
Your Googles, your Facebook, all
Sure.
the social media. Because you're right, we give them our information freely. If you reverse that and had it from and said it was the other Big Brother, right? The government Big
Right.
Brother, people would be protesting if we were to give our personal information to the government.
Right.
Let the government know when we're going on vacation or sending them photos to the government.
Right.
Oh, we would never think of that. But we think of giving it over to corporations and social media easily.
So what about like Alexas and all of these things in our home, and I don't know.
Sure, they're Google, Alexa,
Yeah.
yes, all of them.
So, I mean, they're basically listening all the time.
They do.
Because they have to be, because Alexis, blah, 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 wake up. But they are basically on 24/7.
Yeah, they are. They are on 24/7. They're waiting for the word Alexa to listen.
Right.
But if they're waiting for that word, what about any other words? And then the question of conspiracy theories is, what if they're hacked into, an individual Alexa is hacked
Right.
into to listen to conversations?
Well, I don't. This is. Are you familiar with the show South Park?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they had an episode where basically they were like 500 times during the show they were telling Alexis to go do this stuff, and people who had their televisions on at the time, who were watching the show, who had these devices, they were basically hacking them.
Yes.
And I mean, they did it intentionally to show, hey, see what can happen?
Yes.
And go buy 3 elephants, or all of this ridiculous stuff. And
that actually happened. There was a news report of I think it was a 4-year-old child, said that they wanted Alexa wanted to ask Alexa for chocolate and a dollhouse.
Right.
And then since the customer was on Amazon Prime, they delivered this dollhouse and all this chocolate to the house. And then the reporter who said the story on the news for that small town, all their Alexas went off.
Right.
And ordered the same thing. So it makes you think, did they have Q&A departments there, quality control over Alexa?
Well,
to monitor
you'd think that maybe we have a remote control or something that just turn it on, before you do that stuff. But we're not real smart sometimes.
Well, it's interesting. If that would have been the government saying, could you have this device in your house?
Yeah.
Because the government, you could ask the government questions on taxes
Right.
or political issues about your
Yeah, no way,
one would do
no
it.
way, right.
But we'll have it for as a company like Amazon. We'll put
Right.
it in our house, no problem. It goes to show you anything like that a corporation will do, and that can offer discounts to people, to have it,
Right.
like focus groups.
Right.
They'll run and do it.
Yeah.
Just like
well, it's go ahead. Cox Communication
Yes.
has that contour.
Contour, yes. That's another one.
But the difference there is you have to push a button
Right.
and to activate it. So, I would think that there's got to be something. Well, I don't know. They could still be listening. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's just it.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Listening.
how much of what we see on television or in the movies, back in the 60s and 70s, there were all of these films that came out where you were being spied on by the satellite, and they could zoom down and read your license plate number,
Yes.
or your whatever.
Yes.
How much of that is realistic or is true at this point in time?
Absolutely. Satellites can do that. Read a dime on the ground from 30,000 feet or how high they are in the sky. Yes, that is very, very, very true. But we also have things like GPS now.
Right.
GPS. We have our phones. So now when you're in your house and you leave to go from point A to point B, you can
You're
theoretically
being
tracked.
Right.
Theoretically can be tracked.
Yeah.
Right. If in turn a company were to track your phone and your transactions with your bank, use your ATM to buy things, within a 24-hour day, it would be really interesting to see all the different transactions that we have created during the day in our travels throughout town based upon our payments, our GPS, our cell phone calls we make, who we contact, how long we spend on the phone.
Well, and that's the point. I do want to encourage everyone, if you have Netflix, go watch The Big Hack. And after you finish watching it, believe me, you'll be calling Mack. Because it's that's why I was glad that you were coming in today, because I had some questions about, and this is a true story. This is not a movie. This is actually factual. And it was a guy who was in the business, and he basically realized one day that every piece of information, everything that we do, is being tracked and used to identify us and our needs, our wants, our everything.
Right.
And he and I haven't finished, so don't spoil it for me. But he had gone to find out what information they had about him.
Right.
And so I don't know if he did yet or not, but I'll get to the end of it one of these days. So there are any company, even if you don't deal with them directly. I mean, look at your Facebook feeds. I mean, look at the crap that comes up on there, and it's like, wow, that was last week I was looking for this, and now I've got all of these ads,
right,
about buying a flamethrower. So,
right.
And if the NSA is watching, I'm just kidding. That was a joke, okay?
Well, when you talk about what can you do to protect yourself, like your small business, what
Right.
can you do? The best thing is awareness. Understand that anything you put out on the internet is there forever.
Right.
And I tell my clients that, and I also teach. I'm a professor as well, and I teach my students this as well. Anytime you take a picture or a selfie, and you try to send it to your significant other,
Yep.
that information,
Yeah,
it is
it's there.
out there forever, and you can't remove it. Now, there's people, remember back in the olden days, like 5 years ago,
Yeah, I know.
5 years ago, olden days, you would say, okay, I'm going to delete this photo, and the photo's deleted from your phone, and it's done.
Right.
Not anymore.
Not
as soon
anymore.
as you send it, it's on a server, bounced around between different servers all throughout the
Well,
blogosphere.
and look at politically how many
Sure.
tweets that are out there or things that they have taken down, but somebody's got a screenshot of it.
Right.
And an hour later, it's back up.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
Whoa, that reminds me, what you just said. Have you heard of a new technology called dark fake?
Dark fake?
Dark fake.
No.
It's really interesting for your viewers. It's really interesting. And it's going to be very, very prevalent, they're saying, in this next political election we're having this year and for next year. What dark fake is, you and I are sitting here talking, and we have
Right.
a green screen behind us,
Right.
right? You can actually change the face of someone else.
And put someone else's face on your
somebody's
body or my
face.
body.
Right.
And having this conversation.
and have this conversation.
Right.
And it looks very, very real. There
Right.
was a couple of them. When it first came out, you could tell that it was
Right.
kind of didn't match.
Right.
But now it's getting so precise because they're using AI, artificial
Right,
intelligence.
artificial intelligence,
And
yeah.
it's looking, it's amazing. Now that's going to be really interesting too.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to, now when you see a video, you're not going to know if it's real or if it's actually created for some dark fake.
Yeah. And
Laboratory.
so I think that is going to seriously affect elections in the years to come.
Yes.
Because you're not going to know whether or not the candidate that you're voting for really said or did what you think they did.
Right, right. You will know if they said it. You're going to have to.
Unless you
look at
saw it yourself with your own eyes.
Right, unless you saw it yourself with your own eyes,
Right.
or they have to come back right afterwards and from a authorized,
Right.
reputable
Right.
media
Right.
outlet, and can argue against it, because you're right, you won't be able to tell if it's there. There was another story that came out too. Speaking of, since you're a political show, the election for next year, we may have a really serious problem right now with our voting machines. And it leads back to what I do as far as cybersecurity. There is a big increase in hacking using ransomware. If you're those that are familiar with ransomware, it's basically the old-fashioned way of
We
paying-
found a video or we found a virus on your computer. Click here to.
Yes, or the old-fashioned way of hijacking a business. Like back in the day, the mobster days, back in the days when they're saying, pay the insurance for your restaurant and make
Right.
it,
Right.
something may happen to your restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And then you pay it, and a year later they come back again.
Right.
Same thing as ransomware, but they're using technology, using the same type of techniques used back in the 20s or back in the days of gangsters, right? These hackers have become gangsters. They're doing the same thing. They're hijacking your particular device, encrypting all the data. It's a technique used to encrypt your hard drive with a code that can decrypt it.
Right.
They have the code.
Okay.
what
And you have to
do-
pay them
you have
to
to
get
pay
that
them.
code.
Right.
To clean
Like
your
a-
computer.
Like ransom, right, exactly. Back in the day when someone was kidnapped, you'd have to deliver a bag of money or a briefcase of money under the bridge at
Right.
1 o'clock in the morning, right?
And come alone.
And come alone, right? Don't call the cops, right? Come alone. Now it's done differently. It's done with crypto technology,
Right.
right? Using cryptocurrency. Bitcoin or something that they
Really?
use that to do it. Yes, because now it can't be traceable.
So that's interesting because I know some people who are involved with Bitcoin.
Yes.
And this is my opinion only. I don't know if it's fact or whatever, but it really doesn't exist.
The coin doesn't exist.
Right. It is something that you and I have agreed that this coffee cup is worth $1.
Yes.
Now, if I have 2 of these coffee cups, now it's worth $2.
Correct, because we
Now-
believe that.
Right, and so you and I can exchange this back and forth.
Yes.
But if we have a third party over here that doesn't buy that, this cup isn't going to get me anything.
Well, yes, because the two people have agreed that
Right.
the cup has value.
Right.
Now, other people will hear that as well, and they will want to be a part of it.
Right.
Just like our American dollar.
Right.
What is it backed up by? The belief and the good faith that the two people are saying that currency is
Well,
worth something.
actually, that's a little different because it is backed by gold.
Oh, we have gold. Oh, Backed by gold, okay. We do, huh?
That's what they tell us, right?
That's what they tell us.
Right.
Okay, well, cryptocurrency, they're saying it's backed up something better than gold, and that's the faith of individuals creating value for it. Even
Okay.
gold itself,
Okay.
it has to have an intangible value that people, society, or culture says is worth something.
okay, right, and we've agreed that gold is worth something because you can use it for this, 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 and this.
Yes,
right?
correct.
And so that's what gives it its value.
Right.
I mean, in electronics, in circuit boards, and all of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and jewelry, and you know, you go to like a pawn shop.
Right.
And they don't care if you have a ring. I guess they don't care about the stone. All they care about is the gold.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
exactly.
that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
Exactly. So that's how these ransomware companies work. They're
Right.
looking to encrypt your data. Now, what's scary about this is that recently on the news, there's been several different cities in Texas.
Right.
23 cities in Texas,
Right.
right? Florida City in Florida, and other municipalities across the country have been hit by this ransomware. The part that makes it very serious here is if the voter rolls, the databases that has everybody's name in it that are eligible to vote,
Right.
if those servers are hit with ransomware, they're locked out. They can lock out people going to register to vote, or even on election day trying
Right.
to vote. It would cause what? Havoc throughout the entire country, and it would definitely be a form of terrorism.
Yes.
So recently, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, have issued funds to help states work on cybersecurity for the voting elections throughout the country. Is it enough now? Hopefully so, that it's enough.
Okay. And when did this occur?
It just talked about this week, and
Okay.
this is almost
I'm
September.
saying because I've been kind of following that, and it's like they're really the money that's needed isn't anywhere near the money that they're basically doling out.
True. First, the feds didn't want to do anything. First,
Right.
the feds, so it's a state issue.
Right.
But if it affects the state, county, and municipalities of other states,
Then it's
it
a
now
national
becomes
issue.
a national
Okay,
federal
great.
issue.
All right, I'm glad to hear that
And
update.
they're going to push. They're going to push for it. The states are actually pushing for it. The attorney generals across the country are pushing for it,
Right.
and they're doing it now. But it has to be a collaboration between the white hackers and the black hackers.
Right.
White hackers are the good guys. Within every state have to work together in a collaborative method to share information on how they can stop or mitigate and stop this type of cyber attacks, because it is very, very prevalent. I mean, you could have someone seizing up a computer system and not having access to that data, and could bring down hospitals,
Right.
as done, and all kinds of things. And to add to it, now insurance companies, I heard this just this morning, one of my colleagues sent me a story that insurance companies are paying for your ransomware. There was a company hit by a cyber attack, and they were issued a ransomware offer, and the insurance
An
company
offer
says,
or a demand?
both.
Okay. All right.
Called offer and it's a demand.
Right.
And the insurance company says that go ahead and pay, and we'll reimburse you. The insurance companies have cyber liability insurance that are
Really?
paying for this. Absolutely incredible. And
So when they get in it, you know there's something going on.
well, our industry, the people that I've worked with, the
Right.
cybersecurity researchers like myself, we're thinking that they're jumping the gun because they're not understanding the industry.
Gotcha.
We have people groups of people that are not understanding what we do as programmers and hackers, and they're reacting. So this payment for the ransomware was a reaction. And
Which is
anytime
just
you
going to
pay-
reinforce the ransomware.
ransomware. It should be the opposite. It should be reinforcing training and education, and the promoting of the white hat hackers to create ways to mitigate and stop these bad guys.
So can we talk about the cloud for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. The cloud is nothing more than the internet.
Cloud is nothing more. I saw a little label, really cool. It says the cloud is nothing more than someone else's computer.
That's exactly.
Someone
Because
else's
I know
computer.
there's a couple of places in town that have like triple backups, and
Yeah,
and basically they have a server that's backed up by a server that's backed up by a server.
Right.
So if you're and let's just say that I have all of my information here stored
Right.
with a company like that, and I get hit with ransomware, and they say, you give us the money or we're going to wipe out all your data.
Right.
Do I care?
Yes and no.
Okay.
First of all, by transferring the risk to a third party, you make an assumption that a third party is going to be protected.
Right.
That third party can be liable as well. So now that third party has to have procedures and policies in place to protect your data. And more likely they do, because they could spend, those are the large companies,
Right.
data centers that can spend millions of dollars on the best IT equipment to protect your data.
Right.
So if you're individual as a client, if you are shut down, it is possible that you can access your data again in the cloud from your third party. Yes, that is possible.
Right. So if I were just to simplify it.
Sure.
All right. So I just reformat my hard drive. Okay, and then download all of the information that I have stored on this other server.
Restore, yes.
Right.
But this is what I tell my students as well. How many times have we gone through that process? We do backups all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
But how many times have we ever done a restore?
I probably have a half a dozen different external hard drives.
Right. And how many times have you restored those hard drives? Exactly. And most people that way. They
Yeah.
hardly ever done it. What we call in our industry, we call it a fire drill. You should have a fire drill at least twice a year.
Right.
And basically you simulate what would happen if you lost everything. In other words, just like you're stating, you either have an audit done within your organization, you hire a third party to do an audit, or they take a blank machine and restore from the cloud and see if they can bring everything back up and
Gotcha.
running. And if
Gotcha.
they can, great, now you're certified and you're protected. It's another way to protect you again from
Okay.
ransomware.
In that respect, yes, I do that probably twice a year.
Great.
At least once a year.
Great.
And that's why I have, because everything that I've shot here at the studio, I still have. And I have that on these. Now, I've got an external hard drive as a backup for one of my external hard drives.
Good.
And I know that, okay, if I don't back this up, and I mean not an automatic backup.
Sure.
In other words, it is disconnected from anything and sits on the shelf. And then I think, hey, you know what? I got a little time. It's time to back up my backup, so that if anything happens with the original and the backup, I still have this that maybe, okay, for the last 2 weeks or a month,
Sure.
I'm going to lose all that data, but I won't lose everything.
Right.
So
And there are third-party companies that do, they perform a process called penetration testing,
Right.
pen testing, in which they will scan all the files on your client, your
Right.
original client, and your backups to see if there's any prevalence of ransomware or any type of malware, because
Right.
malware now can, well, in other words, you take a virus and it can mutate.
Right.
And what I mean by mutating it, all that means is the programmer has taken a copy of a virus that he got off the internet,
Right.
and just changed
Changed it a
the
little
code
bit.
just a little
Right.
bit, changed the name of it. Now it's mutated. It's something else.
and it can sit there on your computer for a while
Correct.
before it, you know.
Correct. And that's why as scanners,
that's
we
what they
can't-
call a Trojan horse.
Right, and that's
Okay.
that's one of the yes, and that's why as developers we can't look for certain names of different files because
Right.
it could be changed. What we're looking for is a pattern, how the malware looks. What is it trying to do? What are some of the features? It's
So
looking
how
for?
do you do that? I mean, it's what kind of an analogy can you, in other words, if I said, hey Mac, I need you to come in here and check my place out and see if I'm safe. So what would that look like? What would that consist of?
The level that I look at it from is from the human factor.
Okay.
Because the human factor is the weakest link factor
Right.
of it. Look at the
So
process.
the more
of,
humans you have, the more possibilities.
correct.
You know.
Correct. And they have to be trained.
Right.
They
I'm
have
going to upload
understand.
my playlist to my local computer here so I can listen on my earphones while I'm working.
Right, exactly. Or I'm
Right.
going to recharge
And I've
my
got a
phone.
virus on one of those, and I mean that's kind of old hat, but
True.
it still happens.
It still happens.
Right.
I'm going to recharge my smartphone. I plug it into
thank
a laptop.
you. There is now the smartphones, and you've seen I'm sure you've seen the commercials where, hey, you know, my battery's almost dead. Oh well, here, you know, set your thing
Yes.
on mine. You can pick up viruses
Yes.
that way, can you not?
Yes, absolutely. And now there's even the charge cables. The charge cables, if someone says, hey, can I charge your, can I use your cable to charge my phone? Yeah, sure. And you plug that cable into the wall. That device, the actual charger, you plug into an outlet now,
Is a
USB, plug into outlet, that little charger, hackers are now putting in PROM chips in that charger. So when it goes to your phone to charge your phone, it actually uses your phone to send information out Wi-Fi to the servers
Holy
and
moly.
hackers. Yeah, so it's like, don't even use chargers for people you don't know.
All right, guys, I'm shutting down everything. I'm not.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's a human factor we do. We
Right.
go in and train a human factor. Now, the colleagues that I work with, my associates, their teams, they come in as pen testers. These are the gurus. These guys come in there and test the hardware and make sure that it works.
Right, because you have the hardware, you have the
Yes.
software, and you got the humans.
The human factor, right?
Right. So those are the three tripods of
Yes.
that make all this crap possible.
Absolutely. And
So
like I tell my
if
students the
you
same
can
way.
protect one, you've protected them all, right?
Well, if you protect
Well,
one, you've mitigated it.
Right.
From that
You've
area.
eliminated one. Okay.
Yeah, one area. And that's the human factor, making sure everybody's trained. They understand
Right.
when someone calls and asks for a PIN number, watch out for scams on the phones. We talk about that too. That's another
Right.
way that people try to get in there. We
Yeah.
talk about emails, and we also talk about something that's some researchers are saying is worse than ransomware, and that's the fake formjacking. Fake formjacking. In other words, I want to ask you this, but let's say someone were to ask you, as in a conversation about the best bank they recommend to open up their business with, like, you know, and in the conversation, say, well, so what do you use? You tell them the bank's name,
Right.
your bank.
Right.
Now they know this person you may have a 5-minute conversation with
Right,
at a
right, right.
networking party, knows your bank. They then create a fake form from that bank that looks just like the bank's form, asking you to update your password, or even
I get that occasionally. Yes,
yeah,
in
maybe
an
not in that
email
cell, it could
or
be
whatever.
An email or something, right? And people do that.
And the first thing I do
Mm-hmm.
is close it down. I then go to the bank's website.
Right.
Because if they, and I know that not everybody knows this, but
Sure.
I know that if the bank's going to send me a message, they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to send me a message like that via email.
Right.
They're going to put it on, when I log on to my site I'm going to have a message there from them.
Right.
So-
right. True. And these guys are so brazen. They are actually using fake 800 numbers now, representing, quote, a bank.
Right.
And when you call that 800 number, they're answering as the bank.
Right.
And then are asking you for your personal information. It's incredible how they're using it. That's all human factors. So we go through training of scenarios. These scenarios that my company has gathered from the Federal Trade Commission, FTC.gov, and other governmental agencies. So I asked them for the latest scams. They send it to us, we decipher it, and then we train our people on it. So in other words, we're keeping the information fresh and new with the public. And with our
That's got to
clients.
be almost a daily task.
Just about. I get a new email in almost every other day
Yeah.
of a new scam and what people are trying to do to get information out. But that's one of the safest ways.
So awareness is probably the biggest thing that a business
Sure.
can be aware that this threat's out there,
Sure.
and that as safe as you might feel,
Mm-hmm.
you still. I mean, it's cheaper. I think maybe it's not, but I think it's preventative. It's cheaper to prevent something than it
Yes.
is. You know, it's like if you know that the asphalt out there is 120 degrees, putting on a pair of shoes or flip-flops is going to save you having some burned feet.
True. And you know, the scenario that I use, the analogy, is that this technology is new now, but back in the day, way back in the Renaissance times,
10 years ago?
well, let's go back 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
10,000 years.
All right.
Nothing has changed. Nothing is new under the sun, right?
Right, that is true.
The same thing happened. People lived in villages. They had their animals in barns with nothing on the doors, just a
Right.
door.
Right.
Then the villagers would leave town to go out hunting, come back, and some of the property's gone.
Right.
A guy came to town by the name of Locke and said, I have a device that could fix this. Lock the door, right? Thousands of years later, people start stealing by breaking the lock.
Right.
Then he called his cousin from Germany called Glock. And it's I love that.
I love it. I got to give that one to you. Thus the NRA was born.
That's how it was born. Exactly.
Sorry.
So this is nothing new under the sun. This has been going on for thousands of
Right.
years. These crimes have been committed by bad guys trying to steal information. But now technology has made it easier. They can do it from their chair, their basement.
Well, information is power.
That's right. And new currency. It is
Yeah.
the new currency.
It is the new currency. I've heard
Yes.
that a number of times.
Absolutely.
Maybe I heard it from you. So.
Yeah, absolutely new currency. Because
Yeah.
with information, you can do all kinds of things. And that's why I mentioned the jigsaw puzzle. That's information, the profile is built on the darknet for individuals. And this information is being passed around now and being sold. Hackers literally would break into a company and steal a server before they'll steal $1,000 on a table or a safe.
Yeah.
Because that data on that server, they can sell over and over and
It's
over
worth
again.
Millions, yeah.
But $1,000 will spend once,
Yeah.
right? That's why it's very important we understand this information.
So is it, what's the one thing that we can do more than anything else? I know there's not just one thing, but is there, what should we be most aware of in our daily lives as
Sure,
we're going,
it's the
just
same
even
thing.
regular people?
Absolutely, it's the same thing we've been taught since we were kids. You know, when you walk down the street, make sure the streets are lit, that it's safe. Same thing when you're traveling on the internet, make sure you go to websites that are safe, make sure that the information in the address bar,
Right?
if you're entering any personal identifiable information, you make sure it's secure by using
And that's-
HTTPS.
Yeah, at the S at the end of the HTTP
Yep.
shows that it's a secure site.
Secure site.
Okay.
But secure site on their side. Now, what they don't tell you is that if your machine's been compromised with keyloggers, they're still
Right.
watching what you're doing as well. So you need to make sure that you have all the latest updates, antivirus software, latest updates on those workstations that you're working with.
So I read a book not too long ago. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It scared the crap out of me. This was a few years back. Dan Brown's Digital Fortress.
Oh, there we go.
Have you read that?
Yes.
And I think the thing that really kind of freaked me out a little bit was that none of that was far-fetched.
Right.
It was like, this is what was going on 10 years ago or however long ago
Yeah.
that book was written.
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't make anything up. It was all factual.
Right.
I mean, you know, of course the story was fictional.
Right.
But all of the devices and things that he was talking about were right there.
Right. Yeah, they're happening there, just like Star Trek back in the day.
Yeah.
We're doing things now like we did
Yeah.
in the movies. Yeah, that's definitely happening. And the exciting thing is that the technology is moving forward. The scariest thing is that we need to talk about preventions and awareness to protect our personal data and our privacy.
But
that's the scary part.
every technological advance
Right.
that we have experienced or have created
Right.
has always had some amount of danger to it that we then had to be aware of, you know, like automobiles. So you got
Sure.
you got seat belts, you got red lights, you got, you know, traffic laws, all of this stuff that you have to go take a test to get a driver's license.
Right.
But any idiot like me can pick up a cell phone or a computer and start whacking away online and, you know, without the, you know, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but, you know, the guy from Nigeria that's going to give me $10 million as soon as I send him all my information.
Right.
And people were falling for that.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, how did I get so lucky? Cool, I got to, you know.
Yeah, well, just like the sweepstakes commercials we all see, we think, oh, it's a
Yeah.
possibility of...
Publishers Clearinghouse. Oh my God, they're going to come to my door next month.
Right. We're going to win all this money, millions of dollars from it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We always have to be careful of those types of scams. Absolutely.
So, what advice would you give to a small business owner like myself, or even a big business owner?
Sure.
I mean, it's the more employees that you have, the more the chances of getting hacked or something happening.
True.
So, educating my employees, I mean, would that be
Yes.
the first?
Educating employees, making sure that they have biannual or twice a year cybersecurity awareness training, and test it. Now that's another thing that's happening now too that companies are doing. They're testing using email test, where the employee of a company, every now and then they'll get this email that says, hey, this is Marta from marketing. Could you take a look at this spreadsheet? I need you to approve these hours. And if that's not in your regular job description as a process, and you do it, then it says, okay, you failed at that. You know, they're not going to fire the employee,
Right.
but they're basically saying, aha, you know, we need to have you more aware that this is a way that hackers can get to you. So it's a way of testing employees and making sure they're doing it.
Well, and in school, when you took tests, it wasn't to see how smart you were,
Right.
supposedly. It was to see, okay, what do you not know that I have to teach you?
Right. What
And
do you
so,
not know?
if you if I go to a class about cybersecurity and I sit there in class for an hour or 6 hours or a 2-week course or whatever,
Sure.
At the end of that course, I should be expected to take some kind of a test.
Right.
Okay, but once I've done that, passed the course, I go back to my job, and the next day I failed the test.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
How do you get employees, or how do you help employees retain that knowledge and pay attention to what they just learned?
Well, one of the things that my company has created is we have a curriculum that is online that companies can sign their employees up for.
Okay.
And they'll take a cybersecurity awareness education course, right?
Cool.
And then afterward, they'll get a certificate of completion
Right.
where they can present to their organization, and they can present it to their insurance, for their business insurance, to state that their employees are trained. And it could possibly reduce their premiums, could possibly, depends on the
Right.
insurance company. But it lets the public know, and it lets the public know too. So now the company can actually advertise that our employees are cybersecurity aware. So now it helps in the reputation of the business. Because remember, there's 3 things that can destroy a company, and that is the financial losses, right? The reputation, and the legal entanglements, being lawsuits, class action lawsuits. Those are the 3 big things that affect companies from a cyber attack.
Okay.
So by stating that their company is cybersecurity awareness trained, their employees know, it lets the customer know that this company is doing all that they can. So if there is a data breach in the future,
Right, something happens, right.
it's not like their employees were negligent and didn't do anything.
Right.
'Cause that's what's happening now. Companies are getting hit, and they're saying that, well, it was our IT guys.
Right.
It was a third party. It was
Right.
the cloud company that we're dealing with, versus saying, hey, no, it was actually your employee there that brought in their smartphone, or your employee that didn't know how to answer that phone when that person said that they were a high school friend of the CEO.
Right.
Trying to get through,
Yeah, right.
Those are the things that we talk about and try to stop and enforce.
So if do you feel like that might help discourage? In other words, I've got a company, and part of my advertising gig, or part of my public persona, is that my employees have been trained in cybersecurity. Do you think that might help some of the hackers to leave me alone?
Yes.
Or not waste my time? Why should I
Yes.
waste my time? Most of these people have been trained. So why should I? It's like having the ADT
I was just gonna say,
security
use that
at
one.
your home.
In a neighborhood, you go down, you see
Right.
the signs, you skip
Right.
that house, and you go to ones that
Right.
do not have the sign.
And whether or not that house actually has it,
Yes.
the sign's there, but the guy next door doesn't. So
Correct.
I'm not going to take a chance here. I'll go over here.
Right, like the one that says my house is protected by Glock.
Right.
The German guy was talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Same way. It's the
So,
same-
and
the
his
same way.
isn't, yeah.
Right, his isn't. The same way, right?
So-
making sure that your employees are trained hackers, because now, like I tell my students, what I teach them in cybersecurity awareness at the university, hackers are doing the same thing. It's like a bizarro world, an upside down world, right?
Right.
There are groups of hackers in classrooms learning how to hack into companies and corporations. That's their job.
Right.
And their thesis or essays are how many companies they can break into,
Right.
and ways to do it. So we have to respond to that with a stronger force. And that stronger force starts with the education of the people that are being attacked.
Do you think our and I'm going to get in some little deep water here
Sure.
and put you on the spot, and if you don't have to answer this question if you feel that you'd rather not. Do you feel that our government at this point in time is doing enough to fight cyber terrorism?
Oh, that's an easy question. No. And I
Okay.
say more like hell no. And the reason why I say that is
Hell no.
yeah, it's like saying something on a scale of 1 to 10. Our government's at a 9 right now. Saying 10 means they'll stop their work, right?
Right.
9 meaning we got more work to do.
Okay.
Because anytime we create that patch on the dam that I was telling you about earlier,
Right.
hackers are trying to find another way to find another hole in the dam to exploit. So that's why we can never state that we're doing enough. We
Right.
always are not doing enough. We'll never forget, we're never doing enough. We
Right.
gotta continue the struggle. continue
Because
the-
as we
the
patch
force.
the holes, they're looking for another way in.
Correct.
You know?
And a lot of times, as a good guys, we're starting to think like a bad guy. There's been reports of...
But you have to.
Yeah, there's reports now of bad guys that are in prison as hackers being hired by the government and say, okay, tell us what you did. How did you do that?
Right.
And they're actually talking about how they were able to exploit a system in ways that the good guys are saying, I had no idea you guys could think like do that sort of thing. That's the type of stuff that we need to have as well, knowing how the bad guys think and taking that.
Makes sense.
Like my mom always said, if we could use all of our technology for the good, we'd have flying cars right now.
Yeah, yeah, and that pisses me off because when I was a kid, you told me I was going to have flying cars when I got to this point. They're not there. I mean, yeah, okay. Oh, yesterday I saw a driverless car going down Sahara.
Yes.
So it gives me a little bit of faith, but you got a long way to go, man. I don't have that much time, so hurry it up.
Well, I have a comment about that too.
Okay.
Yes. So there are two rideshare companies here in Las Vegas. We have Lyft and we have Uber.
Yeah.
In the next 3 to 5 years, Uber and Lyft, the next 3 to 5 years, Uber and Lyft are stating that they're going to come out with a driverless car. Right now, there are 14 to 15 different vehicles on the roads right now here in Las Vegas. They're BMW 528i's, and they are driverless. However, you do have a pilot or a driver.
Right, you got somebody in the vehicle, right.
Yes, but basically they're doing, they're there for liability reasons because the casinos and most businesses are stating for insurance reasons, you have to have a human grab the steering wheel. But eventually that is going to be done away with, where manufacturers are creating vehicles with no steering wheel and no pedals. So you have a vehicle that will automatically drive by itself. However, I've seen reports where there are vehicles being manufactured with a Tesla-type screen in the center.
Right.
That's going to open up new job occupations, because what happened at screen in the center, you're going to be able to talk to a human. A human that's going to be somewhere in the world working wirelessly through the internet as your as your co-pilot or as your human interaction.
Right.
So you're not getting to a vehicle that's going to take off by itself and you don't know who to talk to. Now you have someone that you can actually talk to on a screen that could be located thousands of miles away. They could be handicapped, it could be a parent, it could be a work-at-home person sitting in their office talking to you as a passenger in the vehicle as the vehicle's driving through the valley, and you're having interactive conversation just like you would if a driver was in the car.
Right. I'll go you one better.
Sure.
Okay. And this was recently, we had a guest on the show. There is a company here in town that is testing pilotless drones that will pick you up at Caesar's Palace and take you to another casino.
Yes, I've seen that at CES. That is absolutely, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't pie in the sky.
No.
This is something that they are literally testing right now here in Las Vegas.
Yes. Yes, the FAA has approved, I think it's 1,500 feet.
They have to stay below 1,500 because your private planes fly at 18.
F-18, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So now on our strip, we have zip lines, and now we're going to have drones flying as well. Getting closer to Jesse's.
But they're short distance.
Yes, short distance.
You know, they at this point they will not be capable of taking you from one end of the valley to the other.
Right.
But up and down the strip and different, So that should be pretty cool. So we're getting close, I guess.
Yes, that and autonomous vehicles too. They're at Consumer Electronics Show, CES.
Right.
Which you and I need to go there next year.
I haven't been in the last few years. In fact, I'm ashamed to say this because there's always something going on. I'm trying to get the hell out of this studio. But the last time that I attended a CES show was when CD-ROMs were just coming out.
Oh,
they were going to be
wow.
CD-ROMs were going to be in your computers next year.
Wow. Yes, definitely.
That's a long time.
Long time ago.
And
yes.
and I mean it's just I'm a techno nut geek and I love anything with switches, buttons, knobs, all that stuff.
We should go. They would get some great
I would
footage,
love to
some great interviews.
Yeah, next year we're going.
For people there, absolutely. I was there a couple years ago, and there's a Chinese company that created this drone that can have 2 to 3 passengers.
Right.
That can fly, and they were talking about flying between the different hotels. It was like the Wynn and Caesars going up and down the strip flying. That is going to be fantastic when that happens.
I'm digging it. So flying cars, all right. So Mack, we're kind of getting short on time here. What would you like to say to make sure that we've covered today? Is there anything that we've missed that you absolutely need people to know?
Well, basically, knowing about my business, Mack Jackson Jr. and Associates. We're cybersecurity awareness trainers. I'd like also to go to my website, mackjacksonjr.com, and also my Patreon channel. We're together. Yeah, we have our Patreon channel that we're together. That helps.
Oh, cool.
That
Is that up
fund
and
us.
running now?
It's
Or?
up and running.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah, it's up and running. And just for $1, as low as $1 a month, you could help us in producing our show and our content. We're going to have interviews, information on cybersecurity awareness that we're going to bring out to the public and letting you know what you can do to protect yourself, your family, and your business from
Cool.
cybercrimes.
And guess where that show is going to be?
That's right.
Right here on WWDBTV. I'm really excited about this. I know that we've
good.
been talking about it for quite some time.
Yes.
I'm excited for you and I'm excited for us because I think that I've seen what you've done in the last year or so, and I believe that your timing is perfect. I do believe that people are becoming more and more aware of what we're up against,
Right.
and are going to be willing to reach out when they realize how much they have to lose.
Absolutely.
And it, you know, I can't say it enough. I've heard you speak a number of times, and it's almost chilling sometimes.
Yeah, it can be.
And we tend to kind of brush it off, but with all the stuff that I buy from Amazon and you know, I have never given it a second thought.
Right.
Until I watched the big hack.
Yeah.
and realized just how stupid some of the stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be a little more aware. And the other thing is, I know that with you having your show here, I'm going to learn a heck of a lot more.
Absolutely. Oh, by the way, another good show is Black Mirror.
Oh, I love that
Yes. Oh, yes.
show. Season 3, Episode 1. When it was your worth as a human being was determined by
Yes.
the how many likes you had.
Yes.
And
like
yeah,
we do right now on our,
yeah.
on our Facebook. Isn't that amazing?
It was, and I think that that's a brilliant. All of the episodes have been brilliant
Yes.
because they are relevant today.
Relevant.
And it's like I see it as a 22nd century version of the Twilight Zone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
yes.
it's that type of writing, and it's been. The only thing that bums me out is there aren't enough episodes every year.
Right.
You know, and you got to wait too long.
Exactly.
So anyway, Mack, I don't know what else we can talk about today without taking away from all the stuff that you've got planned coming up in the future.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I would highly recommend get a hold of Mack, even if you think, you know, hey, I'm just a 1 or 2 man operation. I would think that maybe I'm wrong, but as a smaller business, you have more to lose.
Absolutely. You're the low-hanging fruit
Right.
for hackers.
You're going to be easy targets. So mark my words. But seriously, Mack, thank you very much for coming and sharing that.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for us, and I'm excited for you guys out there to have a place to go every week and get updated on what the heck's going on in cybersecurity. And just, what can I say? If you're going to do it with styles.
We'll see you next time, folks.
Nice work, John.